How's it going, guys? I'm Matt Torx. And when a series of games gets as wildly successful as something like The Elder Scrolls, it's only natural that developers will start to branch out to a bunch of different markets to increase revenue. Whether it's spin-off games, fantasy novels, or even kitchen towels, whatever allows them to squeeze out as much money from a successful IP as humanly possible. But one thing that studios have consistently found makes them money is mobile games. They require minimal effort to make, are addicting to play, and can have microtransactions crammed into them at every corner. But Bethesda's history of mobile games actually goes much deeper than this, since the studio has actually been making Elder Scrolls mobile games since the early 2000s. So today, on my journey to play every single game ever released in the Elder Scrolls franchise and rank them all in one big tier list at the very end, I'm going to cover each of these mobile spin-off titles, talk about how each of them came to be, and give my honest reviews for each entry. But first, if you guys like this type of content, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, since it's free and is the best way to support the channel directly. Anyway, since I don't want to take up any more of your time, let's start at the beginning, with The Elder Scrolls. The Elder Scrolls Shadowkey was the earliest mobile game that I could actually get my hands on, and is actually part of a collection of 4 games known as the Travels titles. Each of them are simple first-person dungeon crawling experiences released for a variety of early handhelds and cell phones from the early 2000s. Shadowkey in particular was released for the Nokia N-Gage in 2004. It features the player wandering through the lands of Hammerfell in order to save their village from raiders and bandits, all while fighting a variety of enemies and uncovering hidden secrets. Since it was made for a 2004 handheld Nokia, it's real bare bones in mechanics, looks like Arena, which was released 8 years prior, and is really difficult to control, using arrow keys and the numpad to command your character. Gameplay-wise, it pretty much strips the Elder Scrolls format to its most primitive form, having a small pool of races and classes to choose from, magicka, stamina, and health bars to manage, and a couple different weapons to fight a bunch of reskinned enemies across your travels. Get it? Now when it comes to actually playing Shadowkey, the hardest part is actually finding a way to play the game itself. I don't exactly have an N-Gage just lying around, so I had to download and configure an emulator, then find the files for Shadowkey on an abandonware website. But apart from the terrible controls, the actual combat of the Elder Scrolls Shadowkey was laughably easy. Most of the time, fighting just involved spam clicking in an enemy's direction until they made a damaging sound 2 to 3 times. Then they die and drop some gold. I mean, I can't hate on this game too much, considering it was released on a fucking Nokia, but I wouldn't recommend playing it for more than like an hour. It's just a quick little game that's cool to look back on. Now as for the other Elder Scrolls Travels games, I couldn't personally find a way to play them, but I was able to find some footage of them. For the most part, it seems like they're very similar games made for a wider variety of phones and handhelds. In particular, Dawnstar was another first-person dungeon crawler that seemed to have less free running and more traversing through dungeons and mazes, with less of a focus on combat and more on lengthy dialogue menus. Up next, we're jumping all the way to the year 2019 and covering probably the most notorious and well-known mobile game in the Elder Scrolls series, The Elder Scrolls. I say it's the most well-known because most of the Elder Scrolls tier lists that I see people make have Blades as an entry, but not a lot of them have some of the other games in this video. Unfortunately, most of these tier lists don't seem to rate it very highly. Blades is one of the first modern mobile Elder Scrolls games. What I mean by that is that it's published to the Google and Apple Play stores, instead of being hardware developed for one or a few select devices. It looks and plays like a very dumbed-down Skyrim, with models and textures that were probably taken directly from it. This causes the game's art style to look like a lobotomite remade an already successful game, but worse. But how does it play? Well, to put it simply, dull. Most of the game revolves around you, the player, walking across pre-generated paths in forests, caves, or dungeons, and fighting a handful of enemy types while trying to clean the place of loot. The combat just has you tap and swipe your screen in the given directions to block or attack until your enemy dies. Tougher enemies take longer to kill and have a slightly higher chance to kill you, and when you're not forced into combat, you just wander around with a little joystick on your screen and walk to the next encounter. Now, when I first started up this game and picked my race in class, I will say that I was looking forward to a mobile game that for once might not have base building gameplay like every other mobile game you see. I don't know what it is, but a large chunk of popular mobile games I can think of have building a base or town as either the main mechanic or a side mechanic. This hope I had was shattered after I fought some dudes and finished the tutorial level, because 5 seconds after finishing this little tutorial, you're transported to the ruins of a burning town, and instructed to use your newly acquired resources to fix the town hall. And that's pretty much it. The main gameplay loop of Blades is fight enemies, get resources, use resources to rebuild and upgrade the town. And if this seems like your type of thing, go right ahead and check it out. But for me, it looks a little too ugly and bland for me to play past this video. Not the worst considering it's a mobile game, but not good either. But one advantage that the Elder Scrolls Blades does have is that it's unique. I mean, even though it does have some shared mechanics, when I look at this gameplay, I can't think of any other mobile game that looks or plays like it. The same cannot be said for the final entry I have on this list, The Elder Scrolls Elder Scrolls Castles is currently the newest Bethesda mobile game to hit the app stores, coming out just last year in 2024, and it is, wait for it, just Fallout Shelter. And I mean that genuinely. This is the exact same game repackaged 9 years after the release of Fallout Shelter. Elder Scrolls Castles sees you take the role of a king or queen who must guide and take care of their subjects and expand their castle in a 2D side-scrolling adventure. As the ruler, you must make sure your castle produces the necessary resources in order to survive, indicated by the bars up here at the top. And you need to manage your resources and make sure they don't go below the threshold. I'm going to show this game side by side with Shelter just to illustrate my point. It's the same game. One's just medieval, and the other is post-apocalyptic. I don't have too much to say about this game other than that. There isn't that much else to cover, but that's it for today's video. If you got this far into the video, I thank you so much for watching and hope to see you in the next one. Peace!